Friends, today I want to tell you a story that will make you look at art from a different perspective. It is a story about a man who was born in a turbulent era but did not submit to its rules. If you like dramatic plots, rebellious characters, and challenging art, then this story is for you. We are talking about Jean-Louis André Théodore Géricault. He was born on September 26, 1791, in Rouen. His family belonged to the wealthy bourgeoisie. His father, Georges-Nicolas Géricault, worked in the family tobacco business, based at the Hôtel de Longueville on the Place du Carrousel. His mother, Louise Jean-Marie Carroll, came from an aristocratic family. She was gentle and caring, instilling in her son a love of beauty and harmony, and it was probably she who first encouraged his interest in drawing. Think about it. Imagine a child who is only 10 years old, already sitting with a pencil in his hand and observing the world as attentively as few are capable of. He was particularly impressed by horses. This was no coincidence. In early 19th century France, the horse was not only a means of transportation, but also a symbol of strength, honor, and war. Theodore spent hours watching their grace, feeling the rhythm of their movements, and trying to capture that rhythm in his first drawings. But imagine how difficult it was for the young man to explain to his father, "I want to be an artist." For a bourgeois family, it sounded like a challenge. And indeed, it was a challenge. After all, art at that time did not guarantee success. It was a risky path. Friends, please support us with likes and subscriptions for regular content. And thank you for watching us. At the end of 1808, Theodore's first mentor was Carl Vernet, a renowned master of battle scenes and horse depictions. And what do you think impressed the young artist the most? It was the dynamics of movement, the power of the moment. Later, he moved to Pierre-Narcisse Guérin's studio, where he mastered the rigor of academic drawing, the harmony of proportions, and the precision of composition. However, something inside him rebelled. His soul craved greater freedom, greater truth, and this truth would later explode in his paintings. In his early works, he painted horses, scenes from everyday life, and his first portraits. But even there, in these innocent sketches, a storm could be felt. It was as if you were seeing not just a horse, but its strength, its spirit. Not just a face, but a character. And here comes the turning point. Théodore Géricault understood very early on that art for him was not a craft, not a toy, not a source of income. It was a path. It was his destiny. Yes, destiny. Even if it meant disappointing his father, even if society did not understand. He chose to be an artist, and this choice was his first great rebellion against the world. Friends, imagine a young man who leaves his native Rouen and comes to Paris. He is not yet 20, and ahead of him is a city that was already the capital of art at that time. Paris at the beginning of the 19th century breathed both tradition and rebellion. Classicism still reigned in the studios, clear lines, cold harmony, ancient subjects. But somewhere in the air, a new energy was already buzzing, the energy of future Romanticism. It was here that Théodore Géricault entered the studio of Pierre-Narcisse Guérin. Guérin was a representative of academic art. His canvases were the embodiment of a strict school where rules and discipline were paramount. And just imagine, the young Géricault, with his passion for strength, movement, and emotions, had to spend hours copying ancient statues, learning correct poses, and honing his anatomy. It was like a cramped cage for someone who wanted to fly. But even in this school, he found his niche. In the strict drawings, he saw not only form, but also hidden energy. He was attracted not by the frozen statue, but by the life that could awaken in it. At the same time, he spent a lot of time at the Louvre. It was his real university. There he copied the paintings of Michelangelo, Rubens, Titian, and it was there that his love for great drama in art was born. Rubens taught him passion, Michelangelo, the grandeur of form, Titian, color and depth. And here I want to ask you a question. What is more important for a young artist, studying in a studio or studying in a museum? For Géricault, the answer was obvious. It was in the Louvre that he discovered the freedom that the Academy did not give him. His early works already stood out. They contained too much emotion, too much power for strict classicism. Guérin criticized him for excessiveness, and his friends were surprised. How could he so boldly break the canons? But Géricault was already following his own path. He realized that he could take all the best from tradition, anatomy, composition, technical perfection, and at the same time reject its coldness. He sought art that would not only be correct, but also alive, turbulent, and authentic. It was this decision that would become the basis for his future triumph. Now it's time to see how Théodore Géricault broke out of the world of learning and made a name for himself for the first time. He was only 21 when he created Charging Chasseur, a painting he first showed at the 1812 Salon in Paris. How do you think such a young artist felt when his work was exhibited alongside the works of recognized masters? Probably both pride and anxiety at the same time. And not without reason. The canvas made a huge impression. It had everything: movement, energy, drama. It was not a cold academy. It was a living battle on canvas. Just 2 years later, in 1814, he presented another painting, The Wounded Cuirassier. And here, friends, things got interesting. If the first work was triumphant, this one was about defeat, pain, and fatigue after the war. Pay attention to the time. It was in 1814 that Napoleon fell and France suffered heavy defeats. And Géricault, a young artist, felt the spirit of his era. Instead of glorification, he showed drama. And don't you think that this is where his true style was born? Not to embellish reality, but to tell the truth, even if it is painful. Then came years of searching. In 1816, Géricault left for Italy. There he studied the art of Michelangelo, saw the magnificent frescoes of the Sistine Chapel, and I believe it was then that his art acquired the monumentality that we see in his greatest masterpiece. And then came the decisive moment. In 1819, he showed the world a painting that would go down in history, the Raft of the Medusa. It was not just a painting, it was an event. On a huge canvas, 491 by 716 centimeters, the artist depicted the disaster of the French ship Medusa, which sank off the coast of Africa in 1816. Of the more than 150 people on board, only 15 survived. And Géricault, after careful research, conversations with eyewitnesses, and even visits to morgues, created a canvas that conveyed pain, despair, and hope for salvation. 1819, Paris, Salon. Viewers stand in front of this huge canvas. Some are enthusiastic, others are outraged. After all, this was not a story of heroism, but a story of human tragedy, government mistakes, a disaster that everyone wanted to forget. And he dared to show it, and in this lies his triumph. At first, the Raft of the Medusa received mixed reviews from French critics and the public. Only years later was the painting properly appreciated. The painting was a success in London, where entrepreneur Bullock exhibited it from June 12th to December 30th, 1820. About 50,000 visitors saw the painting. Critics called the Medusa a masterpiece that reflected real life, and its author began to be compared to Michelangelo and Caravaggio. Géricault had now become the voice of an era. His paintings did not simply decorate salons. They forced society to look at its own wounds. And it was thanks to the Raft of the Medusa that his name went down in art history forever. After the huge success of the Raft of the Medusa in 1819, Théodore Géricault found himself at the height of fame. But how do you think the artist felt when all of Paris was talking about him? Joy? Pride? Probably yes, but also a huge burden. Because after such a breakthrough, society expects a new masterpiece, even greater, even more powerful. He traveled through England in 1820, 1821. There he became acquainted with the British School of Painting, saw the canvases of Reynolds and Constable, and experienced a different cultural rhythm. But To be honest, England tires him. He misses the passion he found in Italy and France. And it is during these years that he increasingly experiences symptoms of illness, both physical and mental. And then an unexpected turn of events occurred. Around 1822, Géricault began working on a series that still impresses all viewers, Portraits of the Insane. In early 19th century Paris, insanity was considered a disgrace, and the sick were isolated and hidden from society. But he came to the hospital and painted their faces. The faces of people living on the edge of sanity. Why did he do this? I believe it was not only an artistic endeavor, but also a deeply personal quest. After all, these portraits convey not condemnation, but compassion. Woman with a mania for envy, man with a mania for gambling, patient with a mania for kidnapping children. In each of them we see not a caricature, but a living soul, wounded and at the same time genuine. Now tell me, wasn't that bolder than any battle scene? To show a person as they are usually not seen. This is not a beautiful story for the salon. It is the truth of life, which is frightening and at the same time attractive. It was not one painting that became an indicator of this creative period of the artist, but these portraits of madmen. For in them, Géricault raised art to another level. He showed that the artist has the power to look into the very abyss of the human soul. And this abyss turned out to be no less majestic than heroic battles or historical scenes. His palette became darker during these years, his brushstrokes more nervous, his compositions more focused. Some of the paintings are too harsh and explicit, and they have a strong emotional impact on viewers, but we will not show them in this video, and YouTube restrictions do not allow us to do so. So, if you love horror and want to test your nervous system, try to find these paintings on the internet, and I can promise you that no matter how disgusting the emotions they evoke, you will definitely not be able to forget them. So it was the art of maturity, where every brushstroke speaks of fatigue and struggle. And unfortunately, this struggle was not only creative. From numerous falls from his horse, from illness, from internal exhaustion, he became weaker and weaker. Théodore Géricault passed away very early, on January 26, 1824, at the age of only 32. It seems like such a short time, but look how much he managed to accomplish. His The Raft of the Medusa has forever remained a symbol of man's struggle for survival and a monument to a tragic page in French history. His portraits of madmen opened up a whole new dimension in art, a dimension of compassion and psychological depth. And his early paintings of horses still impress with their energy and dynamism. His legacy became one of the foundations of Romanticism. Without him, there would have been no wave of 19th century European art that placed emotion above cold harmony. Géricault proved that art has the power not only to decorate, but also to awaken, shock, and make people think. And, in my opinion, his main lesson is that an artist is not just a master of the brush. It is a person who dares to tell the truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable, even when it is frightening. Friends, if you watch this video to the end, I sincerely thank you. It means that the story of Théodore Géricault touched you as much as it touched me. And now I have a request for you. Like, comment, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. This is not just a formality. These actions help YouTube's algorithms show our videos to a wider audience. And for us, your support is the greatest motivation and inspiration to create new stories about art. So click the subscribe button and see you again in the world of great art.